All right, guys, here we are back with part three at the Pulse. Al and Willie here, baby. So we'll go through. We're going to jump right in here on the Thursday night game. We've got Detroit at Kansas City. They're going to be playing at Arrowhead, and they said it's going to be 87 degrees outside, so playing in some of that summer heat, late summer heat, right? Night game, it's 8:20. And as of right now, they say Kansas City's got a 66% chance to win. Uh, They've got 6.5 on the line and over unders 54. So Al, who are you taking in this matchup?
I'm going to take the Chiefs. I know everybody's been pumping up the Lions this offseason, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think that they are going to be a team that I think they're going to beat all the bad teams that they're supposed to this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to beat a lot of the good teams. And I know Jared Goff played well for them last year. I just don't. And I know, I just don't trust. I don't trust Jared Goff enough.
Right.
I don't. And honestly, as much as we talk about Dan Campbell and he's like a decent head coach, they're going up against Andy Reid. Andy Reid just puts on a masterclass of just coaching.
Yep.
And I think it's
the banners coming down there, they get the
home opener.
It's just a lot, right? It really is. So, for me, and I agree with what you're saying there, and not trusting Jared Goff and stuff. And Andy Reid is just a genius too, right? He's been doing it for years. For me, I think the game comes down to a few different factors. First is Chris Jones. If he's there, I think it changes things a lot. If he's not, I'm looking at Detroit running the ball 45 times and running it right down Kansas City's throat because they don't have anyone that's going to stop. I don't see who's going to stop them, right? It's just that's a difficulty there with, Amena, who suspended the first 6 games. This could get ugly very quick. The flip coin on that is Patrick Mahomes, right? So, he's able to do. I know they have the magic man is David Taylor from Penn State, but the real magic man in the NFL is Patrick Mahomes, and this dude just gets it done. He's gonna come out guns blazing. They're defending Super Bowl champs. He's gonna see the banners come down. He knows what's at stake. He was just on quarterback. All of these things. He's not looking to lay a dud first week of the season at home. It just. My only concern for him is losing Orlando Brown to Cincinnati in the offseason and then replacing him with Donovan Smith. How is he as a replacement there? Orlando Brown wasn't a world beater there. Very good. But Donovan Smith has to be better than good for them to have a good shot this year and especially in this game too. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think too. I think that this game is actually going to be closer than people think. Mm-hmm. I think Detroit's going to cover. Honestly, I agree with you. If Chris Jones isn't there, that's always been the recipe to beat good quarterbacks. It's just long, sustained drives, run it down their throat, and that's the thing. Kansas City defensively, they're all right. They're not great. Nobody's ever really talking about them. And I think that that's tough because I think that Kansas City is going to win this, but I'm not going to be super shocked if Detroit pulls off an upset. I'm not. Campbell's a good enough coach and they have enough good players. And I think Hutchinson is going to make Mahomes' life miserable Thursday night.
I'm glad
he's going to take off a lot.
And that's one of the other points I was going to make about Detroit's defense. This is a team under Dan Campbell that added some great pieces in the offseason. They really went out in free agency and said, listen, we were tired of giving up 35, 40 points and losing games when our offense is scoring well into the 30s. We're just not able to win these games because we can't stop anybody. So they went out and got some good pieces to add to that. Hutchinson's coming back, his second season and stuff. One thing I'm going to say is this is a big test for that defense week 1. They don't get the luxury of having this game embedded in their schedule. This is front page week 1 for the world to see. So,
Yeah.
I want to see exactly what happens. I also, and this is kind of my nickname for him, but Dan Campbell 2.0 was their first round pick. He's actually Jack Campbell. But
Yeah.
are we sure they're not related? Is there anyone that,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
are
Right.
they not? Like, so if anything, if they seem a lot alike based on, like, how they're built, how they act, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But this dude is an absolute beast. And many people thought it was going to be a reach in the first round. I think it's going to be. I think he's going to get the job done for them and be great. You got C.J. Gardner Johnson, that he came
Yeah.
over. He's a true playmaker. You probably remember him from the Saints when he was barking in
Yeah.
Brady's face there at the Bucks. That was kind of funny. But just that he brings a great level of experience and of intensity that they lacked last year, right? Like this guy played in the Super Bowl last year. He had that taste. He knows what it takes to get there. And I think he's going to have like a big impact on this locker room and change a lot of mindsets on how to be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
They added Cameron Sutton from Pittsburgh, Emmanuel Mosley from San Fran, both good corners and stuff. But another guy, and I don't know if you caught him in the preseason, is Brian Branch, drafted from Alabama. Listen,
Yeah.
I think this dude just needs a little bit of time to develop at the NFL level, but anyone that runs Nick Saban's defense, quarterbacks their defense for as long as he did, you could play at a very high level. So, and I know
Absolutely.
you kind of was saying before about Nick Saban, like he's a great coach and stuff. Like, I think there's no way he would have put him in charge if this dude wasn't an instinctive playmaker all the time. Like, he
Yeah.
laid a hit in the preseason that I was like, yeah, that's...
Well, the Patriots have made a thing of this for a long time, of just drafting defensive dudes out of Alabama.
Yeah.
And it worked for a long time because, like, if you could play defense for Nick Saban, like, you can play defense with pretty much anyone.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so
You're going to be good.
yeah,
so.
I think it will be interesting to see because I think this is a really big test for Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, like, if they're going to lose, they still need to play well.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, they can't get blown out.
Right.
Because everybody has been blowing smoke up their ass this entire offseason. And, like, it's put up or shut up time for them. And, like, week one goes a long way. Like, I know it's one game, but, like, that could really set the tone for them. And what hurt Detroit last year was them starting 1-7. Like, you can't do that again.
You can't
like,
put yourself in a hole that big and expect to be able to dig yourself out. Like, that's a really, really tough thing there.
yeah, and they almost did last year, but they just can't this year. Like, if they're gonna make the playoffs, they've got to start winning. They got to start winning games that A, they're supposed to, but B, if they want to be taken seriously, they got to start beating good teams too. Like,
yeah, you're right, and I think it's going to be the Patrick Mahomes show inevitably on indubitably on that night. But I just, to reinforce, like, I'm super excited that football's coming back, right? Like, I can't wait to see the fact that we get to see Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl champ on the first night. It's just a big thing. So I have Kansas City winning 35-27. What are you thinking?
I actually think it's going to be 30-27 Kansas City. I think it's going to be close because I think if you're not going to have Chris Jones, I think that defense for Kansas City is vulnerable. And I think Amon St. Brown is going to run crazy on that defense. And I think they're going to try double covering him and it's not going to matter. That dude's so strong that, like...
Yeah, we didn't even mention it too, but Jahmyr Gibbs being a rookie and stuff, like you don't take him 10th overall and not use him. So, like, it's going to be very interesting to start the season, how he's utilized, where he's utilized. They've talked about using him in the slot, not just as a running back, running Montgomery in the backfield and him out wide. Like, Jamison Williams is still suspended 6 games, so who knows what ends up happening, like, in this offense and how Gibbs is utilized. Like, he was an excellent pass-catching back out of Alabama, and I really think, like, it's going to be wild to get. They're going to use him like a utility knife there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're gonna use him a lot like, I think, Atlanta's in that, and they're going to end up using Bijan Robinson. Like, I think it's the same thing. They're just going to use them all over the field.
Yeah, like the same way they're doing that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, listen,
So
I've got 35-27. You got 30-27. So
yeah.
real close there. I know next we'll move forward. Now that we've done that, we'll move into our MLB segment that we have. And listen, I know this is one of your favorite times of year. Talk a little bit about what
Oh,
you're
October
going through.
baseball.
Yeah,
Oh, love it
tell
so
us
much.
what you're going through, how it feels. Like, how has this season felt for you so far?
Well, being a fan of the Boston Red Sox since I've been 5 years old, like it's this year I thought honestly that we were going to be a dumpster fire of a team. I going into the season, I didn't think that we had good starting pitching, which we still don't. For the record, that part is true. But I thought we had an okay lineup. And what has impressed me is that being a Red Sox fan, like this year, like there's a world where they're not going to finish in last place, and the Yankees are going to finish in last place, and that makes my heart so happy. That, like, it's fine, it's fine. I don't really care. I don't care. The fact that there's a world where the Yankees can have a losing record this season and finish in last place just chef's kiss. I'll tell you. But I'm excited for the playoffs. Like I get really excited for October baseball. I think there's just a beauty to it, and I think now with MLB instituting a pitch clock, the games are going to go faster. So I'm not going to be up till 2 a.m. watching baseball. My hope is maybe I'll be up till midnight, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I'm really, this season has been really good, and I think it's brought back a lot of like hardcore fans, and I think it's brought in a lot of casual fans. And I think that there's just so much good talent in the league right now. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. And I'm really ready for the playoffs because I think you're going to see some really good matchups. And honestly, too, what I've been loving is the wild card races in both leagues are down to the wire.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, yeah. So I think I'm really excited for all of it. I'm ready for the playoffs. We're less than a month out, and and October baseball, there's just no other feeling for me. I love it. I love it so much.
It starts to get a little cold out, and it's time for it's time for playoff baseball. So, and personally, I like, I think I drifted away from baseball a little bit, after the early 2000s because it wasn't as exciting. I think, for me personally, and then all of a sudden, I remember sitting there watching one night, and there was playoff baseball on, and I think it was the Royals that were playing like a play-in game. I think it was one of the wild card
play-in game against Oakland.
And I saw them steal like 5 or 6 bases in the game, and I was just like, "This is exciting to watch." Like it gave me that like feeling of like this means something. Right? And to be able to watch that, it was so nice. It was such a great feeling to be able to watch baseball and kind of feel that again. So I do like the improvements that they're making in the game and stuff. I want to see, I'm a big fan of the pitch clock because I don't want a 5-hour game. I want to be able to go and watch a 3-hour game or less and be able to enjoy it. And you could still see the same amount of baseball and not have to deal with that, right? So, well, I got to tell you, like some of the picks that I made don't look too brilliant now because I made them a few weeks ago. But tell me a little bit, walk me through some of the guys that you think, not the guys, but some of the teams that you're going to see in the playoffs this year and what you anticipate is going to happen.
So I think Baltimore's for real this year. I think they're a year too early, but I think they have enough talent to overcome that. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to make a run in the playoffs. I know the lack of playoff experience kind of worries me a lot of times, and history says that it should. But I think Baltimore's for real this year. They're just on this weird run, and they've been bad for a long time, and they got a lot of high draft picks that are now coming to fruition, and it's a really fun team to watch night in and night out. Adley Rutschman is going to be one of the best catchers in the league. He's already in my top 5 for me, and like he's gonna get there. His game is just beautiful to watch. Like, calls a great game, really knows how to frame pitches well, which I really like, and for a catcher is a good hitter as well.
Yeah.
So,
which is important now in the league, right? I know they're all running DHs and stuff, but if you can play, especially the catcher position, which ideally in my mind is kind of like the quarterback of a baseball team, right?
Absolutely.
Like you see everything, right? You
Mhm.
see how you're basically setting up the whole team to be able to have the best chance to get a batter out. So it's really it's such an amazing position to be able to watch. And growing up, some of the catchers that I saw, like Ivan Rodriguez, even Javi
Oh,
Lopez was there for a little bit and stuff too. Like I really enjoyed watching them. There was no one quite
yeah,
like
Mike
Pudge.
Piazza.
Mike Piazza, great catcher,
Yeah,
right? Like it just,
yeah.
it's a lot of fun being able to see someone that's great at the position and play it very well. So,
Oh, yeah. I think Baltimore is really, and I hate saying this, but Houston's coming on at the right time,
yeah,
and they have the experience, man. And they somehow got Justin Verlander back,
yeah.
which,
They got that
God
postseason itch
damn
where
it.
like they just know like how to be able to turn it on at the right time, right? Like it's just
And they have, yeah,
there's some
yeah, they
teams
have
that know how
Frederick
to do that.
Valdez. They have, yeah, they have Verlander. Their lineup is really good. And they just got Michael Brantley back, which for them, he was out for all of this since I think middle 2022,
Hmm.
and he's a good gap hitter. He's a guy that'll routinely hit 280, 290 for you. Like they're just Houston's coming on at the right time. They have a good bullpen.
Let me ask you, like, I
Yeah,
mean, obviously, if they make the playoffs, there's a chance, right? But like, realistically, do you think that they had like, are we looking at another World Series with them back in it?
absolutely. I think
Okay.
when it's all said and done, absolutely. Because I think what's going to hamper Baltimore and Seattle, um, Seattle got a taste of the playoffs last year.
Hmm.
I recognize that. So I think that they're going to be a little better this year. I don't love Seattle's lineup.
Okay.
I don't. Like it's Julio Rodriguez essentially, and like I think that they're going to do all right. I don't trust them enough. I think they've played really well. They have great pitching though,
Hmm.
which I think is what is going to potentially carry them.
Yeah.
But when it's all said and done, Houston's the champ until somebody says otherwise.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you gotta beat the champ, and like they're rounding into form at the right time, and they're going to be a tough out. And then until somebody beats the champ, I think they're going back.
Right.
I think they're going back.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about the NL? Like, who do you have coming from the National League?
Also, with Houston,
Ah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
fun fact with them, they have made the World Series in 2017, 2019, 2021. This is an odd year, so I'm just saying.
Yeah, that
Actually,
is
sorry, they
interesting.
did in 2020. I'm sorry, I take that back. That was the Braves. No, they did. I'm so sorry. So yeah, because Soler hit the home run to murder their souls. Forgot about that.
I think that
Yeah,
thing is still orbiting Mars at this point. Like,
yeah, for
yeah,
real. But it's an odd number year, so
yeah.
like,
Maybe it could happen. You never know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Who do you have coming out of the NL?
It's gonna be the Braves. It is.
Yes.
It is.
Yes. That's what I
What
wanted to
worries me?
hear.
What worries me with them, and I know you know this, their bullpen is suspect.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me
They,
nervous every time the starting pitcher gets taken out. Because the
you know,
days are done of like pitcher like Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz pitching like complete games. Like it just doesn't happen anymore. So like
yeah,
if they can get 6 good innings out of a pitcher now, he's going to the bench. That's
yeah.
basically what we've come back to now. So
Their lineup is just 1 through 9, just insane. Like they have what 7 guys that have hit 20 homers this year.
yeah, I
That's
know.
or something insane like that. Like, it's absolutely bonkers.
Not to mention
Um,
Acuna being the first 30-60 guy. I mean, he's an
yeah.
absolute stud. So
What what worries me with the Braves, like I said, is the bullpen, and they kind of remind me a lot of the '03 Red Sox. And in the '03 Red Sox, like that team could hit the ball a mile. The 1 through 9, their lineup was stacked, and their starting pitching was decent. But what did them in was the bullpen,
yeah,
and it showed. And Game 7, Boone hits the walk off in the ALCS, and like the next year they go get Keith Folk, and they're good. But Atlanta's Iglesias just blows enough saves, and I know this only because he's my closer on my fantasy baseball team. So it is
yeah,
maddening. It is absolutely maddening to
yeah.
watch. But I think the Braves have enough talent. I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah. That's what I'm hoping for, man. Like to be
Yeah,
able to replace a guy like Freeman and seem like you don't miss a beat, like that's,
yeah,
you know, it's. I'm really hoping it works out for them, but I know like they've got a tough task against them, and I want them to kind of cool off now. So because there's what 26 games left in the season now, I believe. Like
yeah. Give or take.
yeah,
Yeah, we're under 30.
if they cool off a little bit and then the last 10 they start to ramp up, I'll feel much better because I want them to be able to drop a few more games now and then
Yeah.
really ramp up as they go into the postseason. So
Well, I think they've got to start doing the thing too with Atlanta. They got to start resting guys.
yeah.
Like they got to start kind of giving guys some off days to like keep them loose.
A lot of those guys have played like at the top of their lineup have played every game this season.
Yeah,
Like that's insane. Like that's what concerns me about a team like the Dodgers is they have so much depth in their lineups and stuff. They have guys pinch hitting. They have that going on. Like it's not as common with the Braves. So, I
right.
hope that doesn't do them in either. But, I definitely have them coming out. I have them winning the World Series, but we'll see.
I think too with Atlanta too is the National League playoffs this year is going to be a meat grinder. Like if whoever ends up coming out of the National League, like kudos to them because they are going. That is a real like you've got Philadelphia, you're going to have the Dodgers, you're going to have the Brewers, you're probably going to have like the Giants or Arizona or the Reds. Like
Yeah, and
like
the Reds have been playing better now too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and like the Reds are like a year away because their starting pitching is also not great. But man, like their lineup's fun to watch, man. Like L.A. De La Cruz is just woo,
Yeah,
man.
what did he throw like 100 miles an hour the other day? Threw someone out. Like it was.
Yeah,
He's a freak.
just
Man.
it's insane.
Yeah, absolute freak. So, all right, we'll move on real quick into this. Did you tell me who's going to win the World Series?
I think it's gonna be Houston. I really do.
All
like
right.
I know that's like kind of a boring.
All right, we're done. We're done now. End this. We're done.
Yeah, end it now. That's it.
End it
That's
now.
See you later.
All right. Well, it's out there in the ether again, our predictions for that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, and, we'll go through some of these awards real quick and stuff. But you've got AL MVP. I think we're both pretty much on the same point for that. But who do you have going for MVP for the American League?
I think it's gonna be Ohtani.
Yeah, me too.
Because he did it. Like he did enough pitching and hitting wise that like I don't think there's any doubt. Does concern me down the stretch that he's kind of banged up. Right, I mean he obviously has the torn UCL in his elbow.
Yep.
But he also is just like kind of getting banged up with other stuff like minor nicks here and there. So like, I think he's still gonna win MVP, but I think there's a world where the vote's a little closer because I think like if they're not going to give it to Ohtani, which is dumb.
Yep.
If baseball writers get this wrong, I don't know what to do. I give up.
Yeah.
I give up.
Yeah.
I still am mad about the year that Pedro was one vote. Some voter left Pedro off their MVP ballot, and it cost him winning an MVP award.
Yeah.
I'm still mad about that. Like writers get it wrong all the time, and I really hope that they don't with this.
Yeah.
And I don't think they will. But there's a world too where Corey Seager's lurking. The dude's hitting like 345.
Yep.
For a team that's probably going to make the playoffs. Texas has been weird lately, so like I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when it's all said and done, I think it's going to be Ohtani.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's conversely. I think it's going to be much closer in the NL. As I look now, I've got Acuna winning it in the NL, but I've heard rumblings lately of Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman's there too. They're even saying that like Acuna might get poached with some of his first round first place votes off like teammates that he has with Olsen doing so well this year. I think he's leading the league in not only home runs but RBIs as well. Like it's that's a tough thing. So where do you sit on that? Who do you think's winning MVP?
I think it's
National League?
I think it's going to be Acuna as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you talked about with splitting votes, I think it's what's going to hamper Mookie Betts from not winning it because I think Freeman and Betts are going to split votes.
Wow. Okay.
So
yeah,
I think
but
Acuna,
two teams with people splitting votes like that's wild
because
Betts is nuts. The month he just had was outlandish. Mm-hmm.
And there's a world too where like Acuna becomes a 40-60 guy, which has never happened. Like
Yeah. He's got
Like he
enough
could just
games
get
to be
hot in
able to do it.
September.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that like what he has done this season for a team like that team goes because of him.
Yeah.
Like say what you want about Olsen, Ozuna, Albies, Rosario. Like say what you want about those guys. Like that team is Acuna's team.
Yeah.
That team goes as far as he goes, and I think this year has really encapsulated that. So,
Right.
yeah.
All right. So moving on here, real quick. Who do you have winning the AL Cy Young this year?
That is tough because there is, oh boy, that is. I think it's going to be Castillo from Seattle, Luis Castillo from Seattle, when it's all said and done. But my fear is that a lot of people don't watch West Coast baseball because it's on late at night.
Yep.
For a good portion of the country, and I think they're going to give it to somebody like Garrett Cole, which is Garrett Cole's had a fine season,
but his team is.
But Castillo has been Luis Castillo has been carrying Seattle. Yeah, man. I just
an
don't.
Interesting thing too, and I wonder if that's like a problem that baseball's identified is like the games may be on too late, but like, what way can you fix that? It's a 3-hour time difference from east to west. Like, what are you gonna do? There's no real way to fix that, and I just think if you're a writer, right, for baseball, like, and you have a vote for MVP, Cy Young, anything like that, you need to be watching all the games. Like, you have to have a good understanding of, like, okay, this is just because the team's out on the West Coast. Oh, I don't watch them. I don't pay attention to that. Like, it's your responsibility to do that, right? Like, the players are owed that. You owe it to the players to do that. So,
right.
How do you think it's going to be different in the NL? Like, who do you see winning Cy Young there?
It's Spencer Strider's award to lose at this point.
Really?
And I
think so? Okay.
Well, I think too he has an outside chance of getting it because I think as of today he was at 245 strikeouts.
Yep.
So he's 55 away from 300. And there's an outside shot he gets that, and I think when it's all said and done, like he leads the league in like most big categories. I think it's going to be him. Yeah. Although, as somebody that has Justin Steele on their fantasy baseball team since the beginning of middle of April, like. The dude's 16-3, and I know, like, I know the analytics that like wins and losses really don't mean as much, and like ERA is what it is, but like he's 16-3 with an ERA about 2.5. Like he doesn't. The problem with Justin Steele is he doesn't strike out as many guys, right. So I think that's going to weirdly come back and haunt him.
And Strider's way ahead in strikeouts. Like I think the biggest knock on him is ERA. That's why they're saying like, and I was reading an article on ESPN last week that was saying like, oh, people won't vote for him because they never vote for someone whose ERA is so high. And I'm like, man, that's such a bad reason. Like you could be dominant and just not have control over stuff like that, right? Like, granted, earned run average is directly tied to the pitcher, but there's a lot of things that go on where guys are able to that equals an earned run, right? It's not always the pitcher that falls on. So.
Also, his ERA is 3.5 right now. Like that's sure that's high, but like come on. Like there was a year where why am I drawing a blank? The guy from Seattle, Felix Hernandez. Like he won it one year, going like 13-12.
Yeah,
like,
I remember.
I think when it's all said and done, I think he's because the award is who's the best pitcher in the National League, and it's him.
I definitely he's been on lately, and it's been awesome to watch because he just the way he strikes people out. And it's his second year in the league. Am I wrong? Like he was a rookie last year.
Yeah, he's pretty new to the league, man. Yeah, it's technically his third year.
Okay.
He played like a couple of games for him in 2021, and then last year was his first full year. I mean, he went 11-5 last year, and then so.
Well, there we go. Now we've got our picks that are out there. People can judge us. People can agree with us. People can do anything at that point. But
Yeah.
yeah. So, but listen, talk to us a little bit about like. Obviously, you have quite a bit of knowledge when it comes to fantasy baseball and stuff. Tell us like, how's this year been? How are you doing? This year's challenges versus last year. Like, is the decade? This is the decade of dominance here, right?
No. So, well, we didn't. So we didn't play in 2020 because we just all were like, it's a weird year. We just want like a year where we can just watch baseball
Mm-hmm.
and just enjoy it instead of like obsessing about everything there is with fantasy baseball. So we took a year break from 2020, but since 2014, I've won our league every year.
Yeah.
So this will be technically the ninth straight year if I can win, if I can
Yep.
pull it off. What worries me, so full disclaimer, I'm the commissioner of our fantasy baseball league, and we pride ourselves in shenanigans in our league. Like we pride ourselves on like sketchy trades, like collusion. I've seen it all in our league, and
Yeah.
this year, and maybe this is me being a little paranoid, but I've kind of like talked to a few people in our league, and it's kind of everybody's kind of like laughing about it, but like without really admitting it. But I think the fix is in this year to try to get me to lose. I think this is the year people have finally started to team up together.
Yeah.
And it started with the last week of the regular season. The person I was playing had the same record as I did, and I watched them intentionally throw that matchup. So because I think they thought that I was going to have to play the fourth place team, which everybody like that had pretty much that's been eliminated from the playoffs in our league have been sending in their best players.
Right.
So he's got this like mega team.
Okay.
But like what I think somebody didn't think through was the team that was in third place actually lost as well, and that bumped them down to fourth. So I'm now playing my friend Kristen, who I got swept by this season.
Yep.
And she has Acuna, she has Otani, like lineup wise, like it's not.
It's not fun for you.
No. I keep losing, and if I somehow get past that, from what I have watched so far in our league, the fix is still in. So if I somehow get past that, I'm facing this mega team in the final,
Mm-hmm.
who I've beaten before in the finals, and it's just not good. My starting pitching is just garbage this year. I have not gotten that right in the entire year. I had Urias, who like couldn't. He was just so like off and on, like consistency wise. I Justin Steele's been like the one really bright spot for me starting pitching wise. Like
He's been
I have
pretty
Zach
bright
Eflin.
too. You know.
Yeah. I have 40% of the Tampa Bay starting pitching rotation, so that's nice. And I'm just kind of like piecing that together essentially.
Yep.
And that's the thing that could be my downfall is starting pitching this year. But I finished the year 16-4, best record in the league, and we're currently in round one of the playoffs. So,
well, listen, we are hoping.
We'll see.
We are hoping here that you continue with the 9th consecutive league. One thing I was going to ask you about it is, what advice do you have for someone that like doesn't play fantasy baseball but like might want to get into fantasy baseball? Like how like what advice could you give someone like that?
My friend Kristen called it like essentially like playing Pokemon. Essentially, like you just like once you kind of like figure it out, like it's just because fantasy baseball is a crapshoot a little bit. Like you just have to like if you just have enough reasonably good players, like you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But like for me, I have a lot of free time on my hands. And I recognize that, and so I am obsessive about it. And what usually happens with me every year, January 1st hits. I have a whiteboard, and I kind of prepare for everything, and I start doing all the research. I read Baseball Prospectus every year, front to back, and I just kind of go from there. And it's just a lot of like, I'm obsessed with baseball, and I'm obsessed with numbers, and I like math. And so, but like if you're just getting into fantasy baseball, what I would just recommend is just I know it's kind of it seems simple, but like just pay attention. Like that's the best thing I can say to you is like even if your baseball knowledge is limited, like just do a tiny bit of research and you'll do fine. Like
Well, that's
don't
really
be
good.
me.
Yeah.
Don't be me who does 2 to 3 hours of research a day starting January 1st. Like don't do that.
Right.
I live alone. All right. Like I got nothing but time.
Yeah.
Right. Like
See, that was me this year with fantasy football. Like as soon as the Super Bowl ended, I was already in research mode. Like who's getting drafted where, how's this going to impact the teams and stuff. Like it changed a lot for me
yeah.
this year and stuff. So, and I think that's kind of a good segue. Like we'll talk a little bit just briefly about fantasy football before we let everyone go here. But
my one rule of fantasy sports in general.
Yeah.
I this is a rule that I will swear by.
Mm-hmm.
Never draft players from your favorite team.
Which is difficult to do, right? Like
yeah, I usually do that. This year I have Kenley Jansen because I needed a closer via trade.
Mm-hmm.
But my theory with that is typically I like to separate the two. When I'm watching a Red Sox game, I would like that to I just want to watch a Red Sox game and just enjoy that for what that is. And not have to worry about, oh, God, Jensen's coming in. Like, God, I hope he doesn't blow the save. I'm down 10. I really need this save. Like, I just want to be able to watch a Red Sox game and just enjoy that for what it is.
I think that's super insightful, man, like for you to share that because I think that's kind of the challenge is that once you get in and realize, like, how much fun and how addicting fantasy can be, any fantasy sport, I think people find it challenging to separate the two, right? And when you begin to love fantasy sports more than you do the actual sport, that's when it starts to become dangerous and stuff. And listen, I've been there before where I was teetering on that and was like, man, not enjoying watching NFL games. And I had to like catch myself because listen, you love watching football. Fantasy's a byproduct of that. It's not, you don't wake up to watch fantasy and then do the NFL on the side. You wake up to watch the NFL, and fantasy is something you're able to have on the side. So, really nice that you shared that because, like, there is a big difference for that, and you want to be able to, appreciate a Red Sox game when you have the chance to, So,
yeah. I just got to tell a quick fantasy baseball story where
sure.
I did enjoy. Watching a Red Sox game. I went to a Red Sox game, and I think this was 2015, I want to say. Yeah, I want to say I think it was 2015 or 2016. I can't remember. But Felix Hernandez was starting for the Red Sox that day, and I was at this game. And I had Felix Hernandez on my fantasy team, and I started him. And I watched him give up 12 earned runs in 2/3 of an inning. And you could imagine how being the one person in the stands just being like, dear God, this is awful. Like
they didn't have enough beer to keep you happy at that point.
I was beyond that at this point. I was just beside myself. To this day,
great.
it's the highest negative point total I've ever gotten from a pitcher. Negative 36 points.
Holy cow!
It submarined my whole week.
I'll tell you, and that's a good example, folks. So to pay attention to. Like Al said, do not draft players on your favorite team. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
Oh man. So
an amendment to that rule is if you're going to start somebody on your team that's going against your favorite team and you're attending that game, don't start them.
Yeah.
Don't. Like
Definitely
just yeah. That's the rule I learned.
You don't want to ruin the happiness. You want to keep that. So.
Yeah.
All right. Just to segue real quick into fantasy football, first thing before we get into it and stuff, I just want to give a little shout out to Alex Caruso, who I follow on Twitter. He's got 90,000 followers, so he's a bigwig compared to me. But I just, first thing, he gives great fantasy football advice, but he sent me an absolutely epic fantasy football draft board that I unfortunately was not able to use this year, but I plan on using it next year. Like Al said, I live in Turkey, so I've got to go back home to America and grab that, and I'll bring it back here next year that I can use to forecast the draft and everything like that. But I just wanted to give him a little thank you for that because I really appreciate it, and just him bringing great content to the platform is really nice. So One of the things that we're going to do in terms of fantasy football is kind of expand as we go past week 1 here. We're going to do, some overreactions, some underreactions, popular waiver wire pickups for, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight end, and defense. Kickers, you can stream that shit on your own. Get another channel if you want to worry about that. Right? So, we like Justin Tucker, but the rest of them, yeah. So
maybe that's the corner we get on, though. That's the market we corner. It's like, hey, do you obsess about kickers? We're for you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we do.
I got to tell you, so they actually have a league that I was seeing because we were trying to find ways to spice up the fantasy football league this year. And they had one league where if a kicker misses an extra point, they get negative 50 points for it. And they showed this one guy last year, like the kicker was lining up, the team scored a touchdown at the end of the game. Game was over, but they needed to kick the extra point. I think there was like 2 seconds left on the clock, and he missed the extra point, and the guy ended up losing by like 4 points in the league. And oh man, just devastating. So, yeah.
That's awful.
Kind of interesting, but
if that was me, I would have literally just walked outside and just... I would just sat in my car crying.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
My wife says cry in the shower. That way I don't need to look at you. So, but...
that's pretty on brand for Merv.
Yeah.
It's pretty on brand for her.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, but just we'll be giving updates too. Al and I are both in a guillotine league together, and which is kind of fun. So each week, the lowest scoring team, their players get cut. They go to the waiver wire bench, and other people can pick them up with their fab budget. So kind of interesting to do that. First year we're running that league, which is kind of fun. And then I'm also in a few other 12-team leagues that, we can cover some of the stuff going on with that as well. But we'll make sure we go through like start sits as we're going through our lineups. We can even check in if you need help. Send us in the comments, hey, listen, I'm stuck between these two guys. I don't know who to start and stuff. Well, let's talk through it together. You're making choices and stuff. It may be easy the first week, but it gets more in depth as we go through. And, that's one of the things as people start to get injured, opportunities start to arise, we want to make sure we're making the right decisions on those lineup decisions as we go through.
I find that week 1 is always the hardest week.
Really?
And not the easiest week. Because it's such a crapshoot with week 1.
Yeah, you never know, right?
It's crapshoot.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think what is always hard with fantasy football, and I'm not nearly as good at fantasy football as I am fantasy baseball. Mm-hmm. Full stop. Because fantasy football, it's once a week. That's it. You better be right on this, or else you're done.
Yeah.
And I think too, week 1 is so hard because you don't. It's everyone's first game. You don't know how people are going to play or how they're going to react. Or every year there's one game where a team that's heavily favored loses, and you're like, how'd that happen?
Yeah, it's funny. I think of week 1, after week 1, the analysis of that of a teenage girl, right? Just being over dramatic or under dramatic, everyone oh yeah, this guy popped off for 2 touchdowns in the first week, and then you look at it, the rest of the season he did nothing, right? But that week 1 he got lucky and stuff. So I think that's some of the stuff we're going to look to try to go through and make sure not only are we helping each other, but helping people that need help as well. So we want to be that resource to try to be able to talk through some of those decisions and be able to help you guys out with that. So was there anything else you had, Al, or?
No, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, like I said, fantasy football starting, fantasy baseball. I'm in the midst of playoffs. It's juggling a lot right now. Yeah.
It's a very exciting time of year. So a lot of good stuff going. But listen, I won't keep you guys. I just wanted to at least say thank you, everyone, for watching and stuff. We appreciate the constructive feedback. If there's something you want to discuss or want us to discuss going forward, drop a comment. As we continue, we'll keep making tweaks and upgrades and try to, make sure we're improving every week on the show. Make sure you drop a like, smash that subscribe button as hard as you possibly can. And, we'll be coming back later this week with another video for you guys. So hope you like what you saw. You could find me on Twitter at Willie Creeman FF, but you could find us on The Pulse. So we'll be here on YouTube. Anything you guys need, let us know. Thank you.
All right.
Cheers.